There we go. We are recording. Welcome everybody to the Alliance Public Forum Zoom class call. I'm Patti Reiss, and I have Jean Muldoon, another board member. I'm actually an advisory board member. Christina Veselak is on as well with the Academy. And I know a few of you are members and some may not be members. And if you aren't, please join our membership. All these calls are recorded as well as our roundtable calls. So we invite you to join our membership and just support our education that we're trying to do throughout the country and globally. So we're going to start today. The class today and the call today and discussion is about pain. And we're going to talk about a couple things around pain, mostly meditation and amino acid therapy. Our original speaker, Dr. Anderson, couldn't make it. So Christina Veselak and I teamed up together, and we're excited to talk about this and begin. So I'm going to start, and Christina and I talked this morning, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story about pain for the last year, but particularly in the last few months. We've had I've had quite a few deaths in my life, and particularly my nephew, 37-year-old nephew, who passed away in January 2nd in a ski accident. It was very sudden. He was a very loved individual, which is why we're all in a lot of pain, which I realized the more love you give, the more pain you have when someone goes. So I'll say that for Sean. I might tear up, but I have my hanky. With that, I've had my sister pass this last year, a dear friend, and another friend who was to me almost the saddest of all. And he committed suicide from addiction and mental health. So as I've had all these other deaths in my life, that one is the toughest. And that's part of the work we're doing, is to prevent that. But accidents do happen, and my nephew went very quickly and left a lot of grieving people behind. So I wanted to share a little bit about what I've been doing over the last year, and particularly the last month and a half. First of all, I'm getting support. And some of you on the call have supported me. So that's a big thing, getting support from a therapist, a community, friends, family, if they're supportive to you. Not everyone's family is supportive, but I would definitely seek emotional and support for that pain, that emotional pain. The other thing I have been doing is I'm going to go into the aminos a little bit first, and then I'll come back to some of the other lifestyle things I've done. Total aminos and DPA, which I don't have a bottle with right now, but these are the two aminos that have helped me the most. I took them pretty regularly when my sister was passing of cancer in June, and then I stopped. I didn't need to continue with them after I worked through some grief. And then I started them up again after my nephew passed. So again, I did Total Aminos by Janessa. I think Country Life has another one, and Christina's going to talk a lot more about aminos in a little bit. And then I did DPA from Linkty, which I really like their particular DPA product. And DPA is different than many of you know on the call than DLPA. DLPA is a little more stimulating, but I found DPA to be a lot more helpful in some of the deep grief. It didn't take away the grief, but it allowed me to function and to show up for my sister who lost her son, and and my nephews, my nephew's brothers. So those two, the DPA and the Total Aminos, were a big support to me. I also did adrenal support through this for my immunotherapy, and I'm using an herbal formula for me. An herbal formula works better than a bovine for me, but it's again personalized. A lot of you know we do personalized nutrition, both with food and with amino acid therapy. So for me, the adrenal support from Gaia worked really well for me. I needed that quite a bit too, because there was a lot of emotion and a lot of stress. So the adrenals supported me a lot with my energy, but also my sleep. I also used L-tryptophan at night when I needed that for the first probably week, I needed to do some L-tryptophan at night. And then I also did my magnesium as well to support me at night. The other thing I wanted to say, just while I have it all here on my table for those of you who can see, is I went to an apothecary here in Salt Lake City, and I know some of you probably have that in your own towns or cities. And I went in and asked him, the master herbalist there, for a grief blend. And so he made me a grief blend, and I'll tell you what's in it. Linden, motherwort, hibiscus, hawthorn, albizia. Do you know that one, Christina? Albizia and rose. And of course I just put grief blend right on my package, but that was helpful too. Yeah, Christina.
Let me talk about the herbs in that just for a minute, Patty.
I would love for you to.
Because most of them are heart support herbs.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Hawthorn and linden especially support the heart. And so does rose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I'm not that tuned into herbalism, but as Christina actually studied herbalism as well as all the other nutrition background that she has. So thanks for that. And this has helped me to drink a cup of tea. I was able to bring it over to my family and serve them tea. I want to talk a little bit about the food piece. Nobody could eat the first week. It was very hard for people to eat with this trauma. So I brought over soups and bone broths. And that was very soothing to both myself and everyone else that I was able to feed that to, for particularly the first week right after he passed. So I wanted to share that a little bit. I've also done some Qigong healing, some sound healing that we'll talk about a little later. Again, friends, walking, Qigong. I didn't do any, for me, strenuous exercise didn't work for my healing. I had to do more gentle stuff because I felt exhausted from the grief. There was a lot of crying, and it was really powerful to come into all this pain, because it was just this household of pain and shock of it. And we cried a lot, which was healing. And then everyone would be exhausted. So it was like cry, take aminos, soup, cry. There was not a lot of laughter in the beginning at all. There's a little more now, so slowly we're coming back. But I don't know if you want to add anything else into that, Christina.
When you're done, Patty, I'm just going to explain why some of these things work and how they work.
Okay. I think the other thing I did is meditation. And why I wanted to start with the aminos and the food was because in order for me to actually get quiet and meditate, I had to have my food in and my aminos to allow me to meditate, because it just, the welling up of crying and shock just kept coming up a lot, particularly for this particular loss. My sister passed. She was dying of cancer for 2.5 years. So we were prepared for that. But I actually used the same aminos, maybe in smaller doses, but I used the same aminos. I used the total amino, and then I used the DPA, adrenals, and my regular vitamins, multivitamin. So I think that's it. I might come back but I think this might be a good time for you to come in, and something else will probably pop back in, and we'll probably have other people that want to share a little bit. And of course, this is emotional pain that we're talking about first. We will talk a little bit more about physical pain, but I wanted to address the emotional pain that was very prevalent in my just recent history. So, Christina?
Patty, thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing from the heart. It's
Thank you.
Painful process for you, but you've stayed with yourself and you've used all your tools, including friendship.
Yes.
So more power to you and more love to your heart.
Thank you.
So I want to spend a little bit of time explaining, for those of you who are not so familiar with the aminos, why the ones Patti chose for herself worked, and then also mention some other possibilities of other nutrients and are not necessarily amino acids for both physical and emotional pain. And I'm going to touch on the opiate epidemic just a little bit, because where I live now, it appears to be the epicenter of the opiate epidemic, which is the misuse of opiate medication for pain.
Mm.
So, let me just turn off my phone.
Yes, and just a quick reminder to mute your phone until we open for Q&A. And thanks, Christina. We're really talking about the endorphins here, which is type 4 on our amino chart, for those of you who are training with Christina.
Exactly. And an important thing to understand is that the brain actually processes emotional pain and physical pain in very much the same places.
Oh.
And some of you who may have had very severe emotional pain, when I was much younger, I had very severe chronic emotional pain, and it felt like a knife in my heart. So I felt my emotional pain very physically. And that's because the brain processes both pains very, very similarly. And this is why endorphin support works so well for both emotional and physical pain. So the endorphins are the neurotransmitter system that help us. They're our own natural internal opiates, and they help relieve or numb out the sensation or experience of pain. They do this in a couple of ways, and I won't get into those ways, but this is what they do. But the endorphins are a very interesting molecule, because unlike the other neurotransmitters, such as serotonin or GABA or dopamine, which only have one immediate amino acid precursor, the endorphins are cleaved or cut off a larger mother molecule called POMC. And POMC is made through genetic expression out of a wide variety of amino acids. And this is why the total amino solution that Patti was taking was so helpful, because it provides the base aminos in the brain for the brain to make POMC, from which the endorphins are cut off as needed. And so we want the high protein diet, or we want the free form aminos available to the brain to make the POMC. The specific amino acid that we use other than total amino solution for endorphin support is D-phenylalanine, which is a synthetic amino acid that was synthesized in the lab by Dr. Erland Price in, I think, the 70s in the University of Chicago Hospital. He was trying to lower the amount of morphine needed for pain management in post-operative patients. And he discovered, developed, synthesized, whatever word you want to use, because I'm not quite sure why he decided to look at the mirror image of L-phenylalanine, which D is. They do very, very different things, but it is the mirror image of L-phenylalanine, which is why it has the same last name. But DPA allows, so what happens in the synapse when a neurotransmitter is released into the space between the two cells before it's picked up by receptor sites? Some of it's picked up by receptor sites, some of it's recycled by reuptake chemicals into the storage unit, and some of it is broken down, is just plain degraded by particular enzymes. Well, what D-phenylalanine does is it blocks that breaking down process. It blocks the degradation of the endorphins in the synapse. So it allows more endorphins to stay in the synapse and be picked up to send the numbing signal downstream. And this is why we can use it so effectively for both physical and emotional pain control, because it just allows our endorphins to stay longer. So using the total amino solution on the one hand to provide the raw material for the mother chemical, POMC, plus the dephenylalanine to allow the endorphins to stay in the synapse longer, we both have more endorphins and they're more active. And that's what gives this very wonderful, soothing pain relief.
Mm.
Now,
Wow.
I did recently read an article about tears, and one of the reasons why after you cry, you have this both exhaustion, but also this peace.
Yes.
The peace after tears is also mediated through the endorphin system.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And
That's
the
amazing.
tears release a lot of the stress hormones, the adrenaline and the cortisol, that are elevated when we experience both physical and emotional pain. So tears both allow the lowering of the stress hormones in our body, and themselves apparently fire the endorphins. So
That's
tears are a
remarkable.
very useful part of the healing experience, and we need to allow ourselves to have our tears.
Mm, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that piece.
But pain itself, it depletes all of our neurotransmitters because it's a stressor. And as a stressor, it raises our cortisol and our adrenaline. So our adrenals always enter the picture whenever there is pain. And so the adrenals can become depleted both after acute as well as chronic pain states, which is why Pati was also extremely wise in bringing in an adrenal support formula. Now, Gaia, which is a very high quality herbal company, has a number of different adrenal support formulas. Some are calming, some are energizing, a couple help with sleep. I think they have 5 formulas in all.
Yeah, I think
And
you're right.
so it's a good idea to look at what they have and choose the ones that make most sense for your personal experience. Do
Hmm.
you need calming down? Do you need energizing? Do you need help with sleep? Because both emotional and physical pain, of course, interfere with sleep, both through the experience of pain itself, but also because it depletes our calming neurotransmitters, our GABA,
Mm.
our endorphins, and our serotonin, allowing us more susceptible to be more agitated at bedtime.
Mm.
So being able to create more melatonin and serotonin through the tryptophan, and perhaps melatonin at bedtime, perhaps using something like GABA or something like theanine to block the adrenaline and the cortisol at bedtime. Maybe not during the day because we need it to function and to push through the pain and do what we have to do. But then at bedtime, we need to be able to sleep, right? We need to be able to turn that off. And sometimes that gets a little difficult. And therefore, using the sleep teas, using magnesium, using your calming minerals, as well as the amino acid support at bedtime. But we also use theanine and seraphos and some of the
Oh.
teas, the herbal teas, to turn off cortisol and adrenaline at bedtime. Meditation also lowers
Mhm.
cortisol and adrenaline, and can be very useful to do before bed
Mhm.
to help sleep. There is a very wonderful CD, I think it's called Ease Pain. It's also you can get it as an MP3 download, developed by Dr. Bella Ruth Naparstak.
Mm.
Site is healthjourneys.com, and she has a number of guided imagery or self-hypnosis CDs on her online store for all sorts of things, anxiety, depression, you name it, she has it. But she has a specific one for grief and a specific one for pain that many of my clients have found to be profoundly, profoundly useful.
We'll make sure that we get some of these tips too that we're talking about on our site. We'll figure out a way to make sure everybody gets these links that we're talking about in our next newsletter. We'll make sure you get that, because I know a lot of people might be driving. Some of you may be driving right now as well. And here comes Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. So we'll be sure that whatever tips we're including like that, Christina, I would love that for my family as well too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So using flower essences, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with flower essences, but they are a form of homeopathy. Now, a lot of people get confused by the term homeopathy because they think it refers to sort of the whole range of naturopathic medicine, and they'll use it as such and can get a little confused. But homeopathy itself is the term refers to a very specific form of medicine that was discovered and developed in England in the mid-1800s by a Dr. Bach, B-A-C-H. And what he found, it's really energy medicine, whatever you may think of energy medicine, because what he found is that if you dilute a particular substance by adding water and adding water and adding water, to the point that there is nothing left of the physiological substance, but the energetic signature is still there. And these energy dilutions of a substance give you sort of the opposite effect. It's very complicated. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm bringing it up because flower essences are homeopathic remedies, so these extreme dilutions of flowers. And what he and other researchers discovered is that different flowers have properties of emotional support and helping us move through different emotional experiences with more ease and with more resources. And there are several remedies specific to loss and grief. And I don't actually remember what some of the others are, but the two I'm going to mention are I think the two most familiar to the general public. One is called Rescue Remedy. And it has a number of different flower essences in it, and it covers loss, shock, and sort of all emotional emergency situations. And it just helps your heart get through it with more ease. The other one is called Arnica, from the plant Arnica montana, which is a sort of daisy-like flower that grows in the mountains. It's yellow. And Arnica, topically from the plant itself, in physiological doses, is used topically as a liniment to help reduce, topically help reduce swelling, bruising, inflammation, that sort of thing. And it's very useful. However, when you use a homeopathic dilution of Arnica, you can take it safely internally as well as using it topically. And it relieves both physical and emotional pain and shock. So it's most effective used right after a car accident, a horrible, shocking event like what Pati went through, but also surgery. most specifically oral surgery, but also really any other type of surgery, because surgery is traumatic shock to the body. And the body has to recover from it. And usually the body's response to traumatic shock is inflammation, pain, swelling, and bruising. Well, taking arnica internally before the surgery, for instance, as well as after it and after the accident, after the shock, under your tongue every 4 hours for the next couple of days, has been proven through research, it's been shown through research as well as clinical experience to significantly reduce the amount of pain and swelling. Yes, Carolyn.
Carolyn.
You have to unmute yourself.
Hold on, I'll unmute you. There you go.
No,
oh,
she's still muted.
You got to unmute yourself, Carolyn. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
I can attest to the truth of what you're saying, Christina, because both myself and a family friend took arnica before, the day of, and after face surgery. For me, it was nose surgery. And usually you look like a raccoon with bruising around your eyes after that surgery. And nobody could even tell I'd had it.
Wow.
And it was, minimum pain. I don't remember it being painful.
Right.
So it's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. It is wonderful.
I can attest to when one of my sisters went through a tragic death, and when I got there, she had all box remedies by her bedside, and I had brought the DPA, I had brought it all with me, the total aminos, and she said, I'm using this and it's working. And I said, okay, I have stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, Jean, it's actually working, it's calming me down. So she would take the sleep one, she would take the rescue remedy during the day, and she would take one of the flower remedies,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but not the arnica, which I think is an interesting
side
note.
Right. Thanks for that, Jean. And I just want to make a comment about the arnica. I had arnica when I found out about my nephew's death. I kind of fell to the floor. That was my first thing. But I had arnica here in my house, but I didn't think of it for emotional pain. So I'm so happy that you talked about it. I did have rescue remedy though,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't find it. So, but I did get rescue remedy. And brought that over to my family. In fact, for anyone that has children, they have like these little lozengers as well. What's that? Gummies?
They're really good.
They are really good. Yeah, they are really good. So thank you for that. And you had told me another flower remedy, but I
yes, the Flower Essence Society of North America, FES, has a flower essence blend specifically for grief.
Okay.
Because it's what I looked up for you.
Oh, okay. But when I went into actually one of the health food stores here, and they couldn't find the one that you had mentioned, but she found Star of Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm. Star of Bethlehem is a big one. And Star of Bethlehem is also I'm pretty sure, in Rescue Remedy.
Oh, is it? Is that, but is Star of Bethlehem a flower then? It's got to be a flower, right?
It's a flower.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think
all flowers.
Yeah. I love the whole idea of flowers. Go ahead. Did you have a comment?
I was going to say to you, at my son's school, Waldorf, those are the two things you sign for as a parent that they can use on a child in case of any kind of an injury: rescue remedy and arnica.
How lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so good to know.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
So I want to shift slightly now from aminos, are there any other questions right now about amino acids specifically?
I have one question that Patty held up before, which was about the DPA. That's the one I've had a harder time and had my patients have a harder time getting a hold of.
Yeah.
And I thought the one you held up, Patty, was the tryptophan. But I just wanted to see the name of the company.
This is LinkedIn. They usually have DPA, which is actually called endorphagen. And it is harder to get. You have to get it online. Most health food stores don't carry it. None of them carry it here in Salt Lake City
Well,
anymore.
they're not allowed to.
LINKED?
The company name is LIDTKE.
Okay.
I also use Doctor's Best.
Doctor's Best is another one. Good. Thank you, Carolyn.
I have a question too.
There are 3 companies that make diphenylalanine that, because it's a synthetic amino acid, the FDA doesn't really know what to do with it. Is it a drug? Is it an amino acid? So the compromise they came up with, I'm about to sneeze, excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry, I should have muted myself, but I didn't have time. The compromise the FDA came up with is that you can buy it online as straight diphenylalanine or DPA. There's 3 different companies that make it: the Lidkey, the Doctor's Best, and one other that I'm not remembering it. You can buy it either through Amazon or I think Emerson Ecologics, through Infinity Health.
Yep.
Oops, you muted yourself. You muted yourself.
You did?
No, she's okay. She's on now again.
Okay.
But you can, but what the FDA did say is that if you mix the diphenylalanine with its mirror image, the L-phenylalanine, you can buy it over and sell it over the counter. So that's where you can get DLPA, which is a combination of the DPA and the L-phenylalanine. Now, L-phenylalanine is the precursor to dopamine. Okay, it turns into tyrosine, L-dopa, and then dopamine, and then norepinephrine. So like tyrosine, it's a mood enhancer. It's an antidepressant and gives you a more mood brightness. Well, when we're in a lot of physical and emotional pain, sometimes we need some mood brightness, but we don't need it before bed. Right? We don't need any more, adrenaline before bed. So this is why we'll dose often the DLPA during the day,
Right.
and then the DPA at night. But not everybody needs that extra dopamine norepinephrine support. And if you don't, then it's okay to just take the diphenylalanine throughout the day. What's so lovely is we have options. We have choices here.
Christina, I actually have an amino question before you move on.
I do too.
And Carolyn does too. So I'm curious about the L-phenylalanine and the DPA. Is it more effective to take them as separate than in a DL? No?
Doesn't matter. It's just as effective taking them together because they are absorbed through different pathways. They work through
okay.
But it just means that your dosage would be different. Because if you take a capsule of DPA, the entire capsule is for pain relief. And if you take DLPA, half that one capsule is for pain relief.
That's right. So dosage, that's a good, okay, yeah.
But the way you get around that, Carolyn, is the DPA itself comes in different dosing, and so does the DLPA. The DLPA comes in 500, 750, and 1,000 milligram capsules. So 1,000 milligrams of DLPA would give you the 500 milligrams of D and the 500 milligrams of L. So that's a very good dosage if you can find it, the DLPA in a 1,000 milligram capsule.
Oh, wow. I don't think I've seen that.
I used it with an opioid addict, and I used the DPA according to what we learned in the class with you. I used that for the first few days and then switched them over to the DLPA.
Right.
Nice.
Right, and that's because you don't want to use any norepinephrine stimulation during active opiate withdrawal because it'll make it worse.
Right.
You definitely want the endorphin support in very high doses, but you don't want to bring in the LPA or the tyrosine until down the road a little bit.
Yep.
Carolyn, what was your question?
I know somebody, let's just say it that way, who I prescribed tryptophan too, and it really helped her to sleep. But she had had one seizure back in July, and Monday she had another seizure after they added melatonin, tryptophan plus melatonin to their sleep ritual. And I wondered about that, if there was any
When
connection.
she had her first seizure, though, what was she taking?
She wasn't on either melatonin or tryptophan.
So I'm going to suggest it has nothing to do with the melatonin
Or the tryptophan?
or the tryptophan, because when she had her first seizure, for whatever reason, those aminos weren't in the picture. So there's really no reason to believe that they had anything to do with the second seizure.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, maybe, but I seriously doubt it. Now, if her first seizure occurred right after she added melatonin, that's another story, but there's not really any reason I could think of as to why supporting either serotonin or melatonin would set you up for seizure, because we're really dealing with very different neurotransmitter systems.
Thanks.
Okay.
Nice. Thanks, Christina and Carolyn.
Yeah. You have to tease these things apart and really look at timelines.
Mm-hmm.
Christina, I have a question. It's a tangential question to what Jean had said. You said that you wouldn't give DLPA or the tyrosine, the phenylalanine support in the first part of withdrawal, but don't some of the patients need the dopamine support in right at the beginning when they're coming off of the heroin or some of the oxycodones?
No, they don't. They need the endorphin support, but not the dopamine support. And it's because withdrawal itself creates a rebound norepinephrine surge. And it's the norepinephrine that's flooding the system in withdrawal that's causing a lot of the nasty symptoms. And if you give the body more norepinephrine, their withdrawal symptoms are likely to get worse.
But so with the cocaine, someone who's addicted to cocaine, you give them the LPA or the tyrosine first, because you think the mechanism is different. One is a direct dopamine hit versus the opiates, which is more of an endorphin issue.
Exactly. But down the road, because endorphins also fire your dopamine, and since you've just gone through this horrific withdrawal that's used up all of your available norepinephrine because of this rebound norepinephrine surge, you come out of acute withdrawal and you're exhausted. You can't get out of bed and you want to use your heroin now for energy to function.
Right.
That's when you bring in the tyrosine.
So do you have a time limit? Is it like 5 days, or it just depends on how they feel?
Depends on how they feel. Everybody's a little different. You'll know when the nasty withdrawal's over and they can't get out of bed. Okay. Now they're sleeping too much. Now, rather than being anxious and agitated and jumping out of their skin, which is active withdrawal, now they just can't move because they're too tired.
Have you started to see some of these kinds of patients in your new home?
Not here yet, but I'm working on it. It's coming.
So can I just add to what you both were just speaking about? What if you have someone coming off of both meth and heroin or opiate pills? What would you address the opiates first then? Okay.
Would, because you know, the basic premise of all medicine is do no harm.
Right.
So, you know, we don't want to make it worse.
Right. Got it. Okay.
And then, you know, down the road, then you can be supporting both recoveries.
Nice.
Yeah.
Christina, have you seen just the endorphins alone, like the endorphogen, the DPA alone, helping with the withdrawals without anything else, without any other kind of support? Meaning, you know, you'll do the endorphin, the endorphogen or the GABA. Do you feel like they?
Yes, it does help by itself. It doesn't help enough. You really need you need to be coming in from a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
For opiate withdrawal.
Yeah.
because you've got, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. And this would be good, also for you to go back to the PowerPoint slides from the training and really look at what I say about that. And also to go on the website of Matthew Finch, because he talks a lot about, how to use these substances for opiate withdrawal.
Right. He has a lot of things. No, I went on your website for this, and I mean, our lecture, it looks like calming herbs, magnesium, GABA, L-theanine, Seraphos.
Yes, because they all do different things. You see, the theanine and the Seraphos helps reduce that norepinephrine surge, or at least it blocks those receptors. So you're not, experiencing all the nasties from too much norepinephrine. The magnesium and the GABA help with the muscle cramping, so it helps relax the muscles. So you want to come in with a total protocol to address all the different discomforts of withdrawal.
And you've heard of all these big protocols that talk about NAD, right? Doing IV NAD or NAD pills or sublinguals.
NAD pills can be useful, both NAD as well as amino acids. I personally don't recommend NAD IV by itself. I really believe you need to bring in the aminos along with it.
Yeah,
you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, NAD IV gets them very exhausted. I've talked to a couple of people who've had NAD. It's not the quick solution that people were hoping for. It does cause some other side effects. So I'm not sure, but people say at the end of it, if you're able to tolerate it for 10 days or so, it does.
I really like, for these later stage addicts, I really like IV amino acids for 10 days, because you only have to run them 2 hours a day as opposed to 10 hours a day with the NAD. Now, again, you have to be careful because you don't want the L-phenylalanine or the tyrosine in the drip for your opiate addict. So you have to really customize your drips. And you really do.
Yeah, where do you get your drips from? Do you have a specific place who does it well?
No, because I'm not in the drip business. This is where I would talk to Merlene Miller. Now, College Pharmacy has a bag, College Pharmacy in Colorado Springs in Colorado, but it's still dopamine, and you just don't want to do that. I don't think you want to do that in early detox from opiate addiction. Right? The first
totally
week,
makes sense.
You don't want the stimulants in there. Now, the second week, you can bring them back in.
Which one are you talking about? I missed what you were saying. What's the second? What can you add in? Tyrosine?
Yes.
Okay.
But not the first week.
So you would just do the DPA as a drip, and you would do the GABA and the...
I would do the DPA, maybe some theanine. You have to be really, really careful with GABA in drips, because too much GABA appears to fire glutamate.
Right.
Nobody's quite sure as to these mechanisms, but we know it happens. So you just have to be really careful. In drips, sometimes that have GABA in them, people can get heart palpitations. It's not going to give you a heart attack. It's not going to kill you, but we don't want anybody having heart palpitations while on a drip. So you have to keep your GABA really, really low dose. But bringing in tryptophan, bringing in magnesium, combining like your Myers cocktail, with your diphenylalanine and maybe a couple of other things. But there are people who specialize in this. I'm just not one of them.
And you say that's Marlene Miller?
I would talk to Marlene Miller or Dr. Blum.
Are they available to talk about these things?
Merlene Miller, she has a business of this.
Yes, she does.
Would she be willing to talk about it?
You'd have to probably just check with her, Veselak.
Okay. She has a book that we thought was wonderful, but in her most recent version of her book about holistic treatment of addiction, she's totally down on individualized aminos. So
even PO aminos, even oral aminos?
Yep.
Oh. Well,
Do you know why?
Okay, I just need to.
I
Let's
think
talk about something else.
Yeah, can we hold on that right now? And Christine, I want you to add the next couple things.
Well, I do, but we only have like 7 more minutes if we
Okay.
get into an hour. So I don't know if you want me to just quickly jump in or if you want to take the rest of the time with meditation.
I mean, I think
Okay,
it
I'll
might,
take 2 more minutes.
I think it'd be best for you to like just finish up our nutritional piece with that, and then we can just do a really short meditation.
Okay.
Okay.
So the thing I wanted to end with is working with quickly decreasing acute and chronic pain so that people do not have to put on medication. And there's a number of psychosocial ways of doing this, which I'm not going to talk about today. I really want to focus again on the physiological. And we know that a lot of pain, even nerve pain, is caused by inflammation in the body. And if there's inflammation or swelling that presses against the nerve, it causes the nerve pain. And so you don't fix the nerve, you decrease the inflammation. So there's a number of nutrients that are profoundly effective in decreasing inflammation. Okay. One of which is your proteolytic enzymes. So proteolytic means protein digesting, protein eating enzymes. And these include bromelain, which is the one I have here. And there are several others as well. And there are several companies that make combinations of proteolytic enzymes. One combination is called Wobenzyme N. Another combination is called Vitalzyme. But sometimes bromelain, just bromelain by itself, will do the job. And when you take these enzymes between meals, now if you take them with food, they'll digest the protein. But if you take them between meals, what they do is they break down a substance called fibrin. And fibrin is this sort of netty stuff that starts building inflamed areas in the body, and it can actually prevent nutrients from getting in. And apparently these proteolytic enzymes that break down the fibrin, which will then reduce inflammation and allow more healing nutrients and less inflammatory nutrients in. Very, very effective in reducing swelling and inflammation of all sorts from all causes taken between meals. We know that your omega-3 fatty acids and GLA, which because they're both the precursors to 2 sets of anti-inflammatory brain chemicals, PGE3 from omega-3 fatty acids and PGE1 through GLA, gamma-linoleic acid. And these are anti-inflammatory and oppose arachidonic acid and the whole cascade of pro-inflammatory chemicals. So making sure that somebody has enough of these anti-inflammatory supports is crucial. There are other anti-inflammatory herbs as well, and there's some very good combinations out there on the market from very good companies. I'm not going to go through, them all because somebody else has done that job for me, and you can get some very good combinations on the market. They are real. They are healthier for you than your ibuprofen and your NSAIDs. Sometimes though, being on high dose like ibuprofen or high dose Tylenol is useful, but in that case, you need to be protecting both your liver and your kidneys. And using milk thistle and NAC can be very helpful in protecting your liver if you, for whatever reason, have to be on high dose ibuprofen, which we don't recommend, but it's much better for you than going on an opiate.
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, there are certain pain There are certain substances that reduce our awareness of pain. So diphenylalanine is actually one of these. It reduces our awareness of pain. Capsaicin, which is the active chemical in red pepper, cayenne pepper, hot pepper, okay? Capsaicin, if you put it topically on your skin or even if you swallow it, uses up a chemical called substance P. And substance P is the chemical that carries the pain signal to the brain from the site of local injury. So you cut your finger, right? Or smash it. Substance P is released to tell the brain that there is an injury and there is pain. But sometimes substance P can keep on being pumped out even when we don't need its message anymore, and that's when it becomes destructive. And both capsaicin and MSM. MSM is a sulfur compound which in higher doses, like between 10 and 20 grams per day, which is a lot, you have to build up there slowly or you can upset your tummy. But a lot of athletes will use this high dose MSM when they've injured themselves to continue to play. Even though they're continuing to injure themselves and they're being maybe a little stupid, sometimes they're in a position where they don't, feel it's not in their best interest to stop and they need to push through. This high dose MSM allows them to do that. So we do have some very effective pain relieving and inflammation relieving, through supporting the body's own healing process. Okay, Patty.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay. Well, that was my music coming on for the meditation, but I'm going to change it. Okay, so thank you so much, Christina. That was great information as always. I'm kind of overwhelmed with I have to remember everything. And so we'll be sure to get notes out for everyone and really appreciate you sharing that. So I'm going to just encourage, obviously, if you're driving, you're not going to close your eyes. But if you aren't driving, I'm just going to encourage you. We're just going to do a 3-minute meditation. And I invite you to close your eyes and just allow your body to relax. Just breathing in through the nose and then either out through the nose or out through the mouth, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And just taking just a few moments to be present and to let go of stress and pain in your body. Allowing your face to relax, your eyes, soft, deep breaths. With each inhale, you're bringing in a little more light. And with each exhale, you're releasing pain and stress. Allow your shoulders to relax, your arms. Continue to just work with your breath and empty out the mind. Breathe in peace and release pain. You are worth taking a few minutes throughout the day to rest and breathe and relax. Breathe in peace. Breathe out pain and stress. Soft, full breaths. Breathe in peace. Breathe out pain and stress. Take 4 more breaths just like that. And then very gently come back to the room, to your office. Maybe you pulled over in your car. And we'd like to thank you for joining us from the Alliance for Addiction Solutions. We are honored to have you part of our community and continue to share your love and healing remedies with your family, friends, and community. Blessings to you all. Thank you, Christina Veselak, and all of you who are on the call.
All right.
And we'll see you next month. We have a wonderful call at the end of next month. We'll send out to everyone. Blessings, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you, Christina. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.